Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast episode. I forgot what it was there. Was it the Health Oddity? That's the first. The Health Oddity podcast, episode 97. We are closing in on our 100th episode. We have guests lined up for 98, 99 and 100. And we are joined by a very special guest today as well for episode 97, who I will introduce you to in a minute. And it's going to be a bit of a different episode today because I really feel this could be an episode that many of our listeners are going to get a lot from. And even if you directly are not affected by the things we're going to talk about, I guarantee you that somebody in your family or a colleague or a friend or someone close to you will be. But that'll all be become clear as we work our way through the episode. So to begin with, I'm going to welcome our usual hosts who both have professional backdrops on their Zoom now. It's becoming a bit of a competition. You can just see behind me, this is where I am, but they've got backdrops from Zoom. Pete, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm doing better than I was last week, put it that way, because I'd knocked me back last week, but actually it's okay. So I'm quite happy with that.
You're back to kind of you're kind of up in the weights again, and you're kind of training more again, aren't you now this week?
Yeah, it was worrying last week though, because it really felt like I'd done something, and it had got better by Friday, and then Saturday came back. I didn't get a good night's sleep Friday night, and then Saturday it kind of came back again, and I was thinking, oh, I've done something wrong here. You know when you get that, but actually it's totally gone now and everything's back to normal. So that's quite nice. But it sort of gives you an insight into what it could be like if you've got some sort of chronic problem or something like that. It's like, blimey, I was in a bad mood for like 4 days because I couldn't do anything and it was horrible. But there you go. But it's all right now. So I'm back to my usual self, which is
back to your usual.
Nice. It's nice for me and everybody who I spend time with.
Back to your normal, chirpy, energetic self. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I've also realised. Well, I haven't realised, but I've been doing cold showers for a while, like just turning it low at the end of the shower, and I was getting to a point where I was spending longer in the shower because I got to 2-3 minutes and what have you. So I haven't actually had a warm shower for the last 2 weeks because I just started going into a cold shower instead. It's really good. So that was something I was scared of doing a while ago. And then I said like the whole thing about what we talk about and getting uncomfortable and all that. So I've decided to start doing that. Plus it's summer. So it's not as hot as where
it's quite nice getting in a cold shower at the moment, isn't it? When it's hot. Outside.
Well, you say that. I mean, it's only like 17 degrees or something. If we were where our guest is today, then it wouldn't be a problem, obviously. However, but if it's above about 14 degrees, I start whinging about how hot it is anyway. So it's quite nice.
Okay. Mr. Paul Bassett, how are you doing?
Well, the question for Peter is whether or not he's going to keep it up when it starts to get cold, whether or not you're a fair weather Wim Hof advocate or you're keep it going into January when it's freezing cold and you've been outside in the cold.
Well, of course, I'm going to say yes, I will, but who knows?
Yeah.
We'll find out when we get there, won't we?
Because I'll be quite frank, I was quite fair weather when it came to cold showers. I was like, it was quite nice when it was summer, but as soon as it got cold, I was like, I just need a warm bath. But to be fair, we had an electric shower put in. It doesn't seem to heat up anyway, so we have no choice. So I'm always about the baths. But anyway, yeah. No, I'm good. I'm just kind of ticking over. Haven't got any injuries at the moment, which is good. Seem to solve my bicep. I think it's a technique issue that I had to, which caused my bicep problems. So I've solved that. But it does take up a big part of your brain, doesn't it, Peter? When you're injured, you're kind of just thinking about it all the time. So I'm aware that our clients are kind of, that's part of the reason I became a trainer is because suddenly when I wasn't in pain from my knees, particularly, it was just kind of massively freeing kind of, you feeling even evangelical about what it is to not be, in constant pain. So when you get a little snapshot of it, it can remind you, oh my God, yes, it's quite consuming.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we are joined today from Dubai. It's our first guest, episode 97, first guest from Dubai. We've had people on from America and Canada and all over Europe and things, but Sweden, yeah, I think that's included in all over Europe. Sweden is Sweden Europe, yeah.
Scandinavia, isn't it?
Scandinavia.
You know, they're not part of the EU though.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. There you go.
Okay.
Neither are we.
Okay. Montenegro, we had, didn't we? We had someone from Montenegro.
We did.
Yeah,
Yes.
all over
Eastern Europe.
Australia. We've had some Australians, haven't we?
I think we may have had Australians, but not while they were in Australia. I don't think. But yeah, Australians not in Australia. But we have our first guest from Dubai, and it is Mr. Ainsley Duncombe, who I have known for, we were just saying, probably around 30 years now, off and on. And Ainsley, you know, I knew him back in England, but he's traveled all around the world working and things. And the reason we've got Ainsley on today is I saw a post that he put on Facebook probably a month or two ago now, maybe 6 weeks ago, which was really, really inspiring. We'll go into it in a little bit, about a diagnosis he'd had for type 2 diabetes. And that's obviously very, very common. Lots of my members have either pre-diabetic or some of them are type 2 diabetics. But what was really incredible and different about Ainsley's post was the way that, we'll find out, but the advice he was given by a medical professional around it, and then the way he took that advice on board and has really had a huge transformation as a result of that. So we are going to, without further ado, how are you doing, Ainsley?
Not too bad at all, James. Good to be on the show.
Excellent, excellent. So first of all, Ainsley, do you want to just tell us a little bit about, I suppose a little bit maybe about yourself and about the kind of the path that led you to becoming like pre-diabetic and then diabetes, a little bit maybe about your lifestyle and things like that leading up to the what happened, you know, with you. That would just be really good, just to get a bit of context around things if possible.
Okay, I think hi Peter, hi Paul. I think in a nutshell, it's quite simply summed up. I loved food.
Okay.
I mean that really is it. If I saw it, I liked it, I ate it, and I genuinely loved food. I loved briskets, I loved roast dinners, I loved Jamaican jerk chicken. I mean, you name it, I really liked it. So I was like eating my way around the world, to be fair, and enjoying every minute of it.
Okay.
As well, to be honest. So I was, but at the same time, I was obviously putting on quite a bit of weight, and I was getting bigger and bigger. My parents live in Jamaica, and I went to visit my mum in 2021, and she said, "Hey, you're getting a bit big. Like, you need to kind of, you know, ease up a little bit." And that kind of like was one of the kind of the triggers that kind of kicked it off, really.
Because I think because you're about the same age as about the same age as all three of us, really. I think you're 44, aren't you, at the moment? Is that right? Yeah. So and you've been like we spoke just before we came on air, you know, before we started recording, you've worked all around the world. You've done loads of stuff kind of business wise and entrepreneurial sort of wise. And you've really kind of probably been involved in lots of different cultures, the different places you've lived. So you've experienced lots of different kind of foods and lifestyles and ways of life and things. And was it really just a kind of a creeping kind of weight gain, I suppose, if you like, over a period of, you know, a decade or something? Or was it, you know, how did this kind of, you know, how did you get to the stage where your mum kind of said, look, you're getting a bit big, and you started noticing it and things like that?
I mean, I've always been a big fella from the start, anyway, as you'll know. So, you know, I'm 6'3", so I've never kind of like been, you know, being afraid of food. So it's always been the case. But more recently, I've kind of I have been eating more and kind of with no control, really, just kind of, you know, getting stuck in and really not holding back. And I think that's kind of what was, you know, started to cause the problem, even though I didn't see it as a problem at the time.
And what about alcohol? Were you drinking alcohol as well, or was it mainly food, or?
Oh, 100%. No, I was drinking as well as, but yeah, I was, and also I drank whatever I liked, whatever I wanted as well. So if I fancied a beer, I'd have a beer. If I fancied something else, I'd have something else. I wasn't really, I just, some fancy a tequila, why not? So
Yeah.
so I really was undisciplined, I think would be the right term.
Yeah, because I suppose because we talk about on the podcast sometimes when people are trying to make changes about this idea of dials, whereby you maybe dial your of Chris Aremba last week was talking about, he does kind of like some fitness competitions and things, and when he has to be more disciplined, he turns the dial up, but then when he's not training for something, he'll turn the dial down. Or we talk about different levers where you can kind of control how much you eat or how often you eat or the type of foods you eat. But I suppose it sounds like the lifestyle that you had, it was very much like you say, it was almost like, well, the gloves are off, anything goes. If I fancy it, I'll have it no matter what time of day.
Took all the levers and went, that one,
Yeah.
a bit of that, there you go, just open them all.
Yeah.
It was exactly that. It was exactly that, James. It was if I want it, I shall have it. That was the mindset, really.
Yeah, and I think that's the way the majority of the population probably live, to be honest. It's not a bad thing. It's not an unusual thing. I think that's probably the way that most people kind of go about their day-to-day life. So what happened then in terms of finding out about, did you have to go in for a regular kind of medical or something at a doctor's, or did you book an appointment specifically because you were concerned about anything? Or how did you how did you first speak to a doctor and then they raise an issue with you?
So what actually happened, I went to the doctor because I had a lump in my leg, a small lump in my leg. So I went to see the doctor, and as I was leaving, outside in the hallway, the corridor in Dubai, they had this free diabetes testing thing. So I was waiting for the car to turn up. So I was like, I had a few minutes. I was like, they gave you a free ball and a pen or something like that. And so which I thought I'd get for somebody else. So I quickly dashed in. I quickly did the pinprick, and they did everything on the spot. And then they sent you over to somewhere else where you kind of like, picked up the results and stuff. And the lady said, "Oh, you're pre-diabetic." I said, there must be some mistake.
Yeah. So you just popped in because you were waiting for your car or whatever, and you got given this news. Okay.
I was like, there must be some mistake. I'd like a second opinion. That's actually true. I was in denial, actually. I didn't actually believe it at the time. So I actually thought that they were incorrect. In fact, so much so, the person who was actually bringing the car for me, I asked him to come in and asked him to quickly go and do one as well, just to check to see if all their things were working correctly. I did. I just remember that now. And he was actually within the normal levels. And that's when I was a little bit unhappy, but I booked another appointment to come back to see an actual doctor.
Okay. So that's interesting. So that's literally just on the off chance, really, just a bit of fate there, a bit of, that you got this test and they told you you're pre-diabetic. And did you know at the time what, or did they explain what that meant, what kind of diabetes was, or what that meant, or they just said you're pre-diabetic, or did you already know, or what? How did that work?
So number one, I had diabetes in my family anyway. So my grandma had diabetes, and many people in my family had diabetes anyway. So I'd always been around it. I'd always kind of heard about it and known about it quite a bit. One of the things that the lady did say, actually, the one of the nurses there, because I was in a rush and I was in a hurry, so I was trying to get out. And then when they did that, I was like, "Oh, hang on one second, let me call my friend to come in as well." So one of the things she did say that was important, and she was like trying to educate me as to everything on it, but I was still in denial. I wasn't kind of like believing that was the case. Is she said when you do your plate of food, to do half of it with greens, and then the other quarter of it with protein, and the other quarter with carbohydrate. And that was one of the things that stuck with me, that she said. I was like, that's quite interesting for those guys that have got diabetes. I'm sure that's useful. That's useful news for them,
Yeah. Okay. So then you booked a follow-up appointment to actually come back and see a doctor to kind of get, like you say, almost like a second opinion, or to confirm it and to delve a bit deeper. So how long did you have to wait for that next
I left it a little while, just because I think I was traveling at the time, so I left it for a little while, and then I came back, And what actually happened is you had to book the appointment. You had to go in fasted. In fact, I think I went there one time, but I hadn't fasted, so I had to come back another time to to fast before they do the test, and then they send you the results. You have to go back for the results later. And then he said, I said, oh, someone mentioned about this pre-diabetes thing. He goes, no, this isn't pre-diabetes. You've got diabetes type 2. You're within the levels of whatever it was. I was like, and this was the doctor now. So now I was like, he had the white coat on and everything. So I was like, okay, Houston, we have a problem.
So you didn't call the driver to come up again and say, can you test this guy as well? No. Okay.
Have you eaten today? No, right, test him as well.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So when the doctor told you this news, then it was obviously a bit more. Oh, okay. So that previously I had this kind of screening in the corridor and they said I was pre-diabetic. I've left it a bit of time. I've seen a kind of a proper doctor now, if you like, and he said, right, no, you have type 2 diabetes. At that point, I suppose sort of the penny dropped, or you kind of accepted it and believed it, and at that point there.
Yeah. So I'd already been having quite a few different symptoms anyway. So or I thought I'd been having different things. I was thirsty. I was drinking a lot of fizzy drinks, and I felt that there was tingling in my foot, but I didn't really understand, like a bit like a pins and needles kind of feeling. I was like, "What's this?" I didn't really understand. So there was a few little things that were kind of telling me that things weren't all as should be. It all was not well. So I went back. So I went to this doctor. He told me. I thought he was going to tell me it was still pre. But he said, no, you've left those days of pre, you're now, this is type 2. You're the range which you're within, based on your fasted blood sugar levels, and so then I was like, okay, what do I need to do, and how can we kind of like, how can we kind of, dial it back, as it were, and kind of change what's going on.
Yeah, because I've listened to a couple of really good podcasts lately with Dr. Chatterjee, who's I think you've listened to some of his stuff, Pete, haven't you, before? And there was one that he just did with Dr. Jason Fung about kind of intermittent fasting and things, but they were talking. It was really interesting that two doctors were talking together, and one's based in England and one's based in Canada. And they were both saying that they specifically mentioned diabetes. And they said that when you get an appointment with someone who is newly diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, they may have, say, 10 minutes to talk with them, or 10, 15 minutes, say. And they said that 90% of that time, just the way they're trained and the way that the way they do things, is going over the kind of medical interventions, medicinal, like medications and things, interventions that they can use to deal with the type 2 diabetes. And almost as the person's walking out the office, they say, oh, and by the way, if you lose a bit of weight and you start exercising more, then that's going to be good for you. Whereas they both said that it would be better if that was flipped the other way around, and they spent 90% of the time really delving into, well, why has this person got type 2 diabetes, discussing their lifestyle, discussing all this stuff. And at the end, just to kind of mention that there may be, medical interventions they can use, say, for example, if the lifestyle ones don't work. So I know what was really amazing when I saw your post was that it seemed to me that the doctor took a much more holistic, lifestyle-based approach with you, rather than just getting you on some medication straight away. So do you want to kind of explain what the conversation was with the doctor after he'd told you the news?
Okay, so that was there was the nurse, first of all, then there was the doctor, and the reason I'm splitting it out because there was the different things happened at different times. After that, the type 2 diabetes, type 2, pronouncement from the doctor. That's when I knew that I needed to get fit, and that he also said I needed to lose weight. And I knew at the time I was weighing in at 136.7 in stone. Is that like 13 stone? 14 stone, what that? 136.7 I was weighing in at.
Oh, you were weighing in kilos, yeah? So
kilos,
wait, 136.7 times 2.2 equals 300 pounds. That's about 21 stone.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just quickly check that because
Yeah, it's 21 stone 6.
137. Yeah,
just under 21 and a half stone. Yeah.
Okay, so I was heavy.
Yeah.
I was heavy.
What are you now? What are you now?
I'm walking around now at 107.
Wow.
107. Okay.
It's about 5 stone, isn't it, that you've lost?
Yeah.
You're now 16 stone 11.
Yeah.
So I'm still a big lad.
Yeah, but like you said, you're 6'3", and I remember you as a teenager. You were a big guy. You know what I mean? So,
well, I'm 6'1". No, 6'2". Sorry, and I'm 92 kilos.
Yeah.
So you know that's
okay.
Yeah. So so
that's mostly his arms, though. Look.
Yeah. Look at
that. So the first doctor had kind of said, look, losing weight would be good to you.
Yeah, you got to lose weight. You got to lose weight. But I knew that already because my mum already said that to me as well, right? So I knew already that, and I knew I was big. So then what I started on a real focus to bring the weight down. So I actually started. There's a running track that's just around the corner from me here. In Dubai, and I started doing the running track, walking the running track every day for 5 days a week for 2 hours every day. So I did like 3 laps of the track every single morning, early morning, get up, put the earphones in, listen to a podcast, and just start doing the track every single day. I did that for a year.
Wow, so that's really interesting. So you just literally started walking every day and listening to podcasts and
yeah. So what it was, I've been to the gym before. I used to box before back in the day, so I've done things like that. But I wasn't really. I was heavy, so moving around a lot is very different. Swimming is normally the best thing people recommend when you're that heavy, right? So so I wanted to do something, but I didn't want to do something one that was going to affect my knees too much, and two that was going to be too cumbersome or too different. So I just started, and it was just easy and straightforward, and I could do it in the mornings nice and early, and I just started doing the track and just started doing 3 laps every single day, 3 laps, just walking the track, and that brought off a lot of weight, to be fair. But I did Google one of the easiest ways to kind of bring off weight healthily and safely and that kind of thing, and so there was that. But one of the thing that played a much larger part than that was diet. And that was so
you stopped just saying yes to everything all the time.
I went and brought an air fat fryer, which, as I'm sure many of those people, was a game changer for me. It really was. And I started using that before everything was before my frying pan was my weapon of choice in the kitchen, and I changed that with the air fat fryer, and that was just a game changer. It really was. And I had one of those apps, and I was monitoring the weight, and just with the diet and with the walking, it just came off, and that's what actually kept me walking, because I could see it keep coming off. That inspired me to keep going, and then go out the next day, and then go out the next day, and the next week, and that's how it turned into it, really. So
how did you approach your food? Because it sounds like, through that level of the consistency that you showed in weight loss, that doesn't sound random. So it sounds like you put a lot of work into actually being very focused. Did you have a plan? Did you plan your meals? What did you do?
So what I actually did, I got a dietitian at the beginning, and he came to the house and he sat down with me. And one of the things he did, which Joel, his name was, which I really appreciated, he started off with, "What food do you like eating?" which was a great way to start with me. And I was able to write down all the foods that I loved.
Was it easier to make a list of the food you don't like eating at the time?
It probably would have been. But psychologically, his approach was it worked very, very well with me. It went down very, very well, because he didn't start with, "You can't eat this, you can't eat that, you can't eat that." So that approach went down very, very well. What do you like eating, and what's the food you can't live without? And then we went through that really. Actually, in the early days as well, what was happening, which was to help keep accountable, I used to have to take a photograph of my meals and also of the scales every day and send it to him. So that kind of kept me on track, because the fact I was sending it to him, the accountability came in, and that was how I kind of started. I didn't do that the whole way through, but that's kind of what got me started, and and then I started learning about portion control. He did at the beginning want me to start weighing foods and things like that, but it was all a bit too much for me. So I just I did it a little bit to start with, but then I was just doing it by eyesight really, and I didn't want to go that whole competition level
Yeah.
readiness.
So a lot of people get diagnoses like that. I mean, I sat down and had a consultation with someone last week, and one of the things, she got some results back saying her metabolic health, she was 35, her metabolic health at the age of 35 was that of a 65-year-old, and that she was pre-diabetic, and she had lots of other health issues with it. But at the end of the consultation, I mean, obviously there's always a price objection. There's always people, when things come to a cost. She said she didn't think it was worth doing. She wasn't willing to invest that money into it, even though it was greatly affecting her. So despite all these things, people often choose not to do anything. And there are loads of valid reasons why people don't. What made you? Because you could quite easily just sit down in a doctor's office and say, oh, okay, that's bad, and then not really do anything about it. I had a client whose dad had a heart attack, and then the next day was eating chips and smoking cigarettes. So what made you do something? What was it that was internally driving you to actually make the change?
I'm my 4-year-old daughter, so I have my daughter, and there was no way I was going to carry on in the path that I was going along.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't going to happen. I would, as all dads, as all parents will still tell you, they'll do anything for their kids, right? So that was definitely, it wasn't going to continue. I enjoyed it and I had a great run, but those days were over. Especially as you're getting older as well, you can't continue the way we used to, burning the candle at both ends and all that kind of stuff. You can't continue. It's unsustainable.
So have you seen that you've been able to have a more interactive life with your daughter as well? Because there's a lot of energy required for a 4-year-old. You're running around, you're playing with them. Is that improved?
Yeah, everything's improved. Well, as when you lose weight, so much improved. So yes, across the board, everything's a lot better off the back of that. But one of the other things I didn't mention before, which James had touched on before the other question as well, was regarding the other doctor. So that was we went to the first doctor. We did the run. We did the walking for a year around the track, and then after that, I then went back to a different doctor to go and see exactly what the results had been now that I've brought off quite a bit of weight, and now I was a lot lighter. So I booked the appointment with a new doctor I never met before. His name was Dr. Vipin. So I went in for the first time. I said, listen, is it possible you can take my blood, because I want to compare it. This is the numbers that I had from before. I want to compare it to before, just to see, how I'm doing, where we are, and what the situation is. He said, yeah, cool, no problem at all. He did that. He said, yeah, come back and we'll work. In fact, while I was still there, actually, he asked me a little bit about what I've been doing. I kind of told him, and he said, okay, fine. I said, I think I don't know why, but he intimated to me at that point that because I'd lost so much weight, then that would have had a positive effect on my body and on my health as a whole. So I was quite happy about that. And then he said to me, I said to him, doctor, what's the most important thing I need to do in order to ensure that that this diabetes, I can kick it and it won't come back, kind of thing. And he said, Ainsley, it's very simple, it's very straightforward. There's 9 things you need to do. And I'm like, you serious? There's 9 things I can do, and to make sure that I can kind of keep everything under control. He's like, yeah, of course, very simple, very straightforward. I go, could you write them down for me? He said, like, with pleasure. So he pulled out one of his little post-it notes, and he got his little doctor handwriting, and he wrote a little list that I've actually got it here.
It's actually quite good for doctor's handwriting, because I've got it on my phone as well, because you sent it to me and I can actually read it. So that's actually better than a lot of doctor's handwriting. Yeah. But this was the thing that I saw, which I'm really glad you're going to talk about now, because this sort of blew me away when I saw this. I thought, you don't see this from from many doctors. Him actually saying, well, there's these 9 things you can do, and he gave you this list, which will get you to go through in a second. Other than maybe take this medication and you're going to start doing this, and so this was fantastic. Yeah, so go through the list then, Ainsley, that he gave you.
So he said, number 1, diet, and I was like, doctor, don't worry about diet. I've got that. I've already improved that, and I've already eaten a lot better than what I used to be doing. So he's like, okay, cool. He said, number 2, aerobics. He goes, you need to be doing movement, Ainsley. You need to be doing some kind of movement. And I was like, doctor, I've got this too. I was like, every day I walk 2 hours every single day. He looked at me and he said, are you 80? I'm like, what? He goes, are you 80 years of age? I said, no. He goes, are you 70? I was like, no. He goes, so why the hell are you walking? Get running around that damn track and start running. so he kicked me a bit about that. I was quite proud of my 2 hours walking, and he's like, you're a young guy. He goes, you need to be running. So from that day, I started running around the track actually.
But what's great is though that when you started though, running would have been too much for you. You know what I mean? So you started with walking, which was great, and I think you said you did that for a year, didn't you?
Yeah.
Walking, and then you lost quite a lot of weight, and then you got to the stage where. So I think probably what some people would try and do is maybe from day one they'd go out and start trying to run, and like you say, maybe they develop problems with their knees or their back or their ankles, or they get injured. Whereas the walking, I think, was a brilliant approach to start off with, to then build that habit and to get the weight off, and then you can look at running later on. So I think that was really great. Yeah,
that worked well. I started doing lampposts. You run one, walk one, run just to get started, and then kind of go from there, and then start running the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that was that. Number 3, he said yoga. He said that was really important to start doing that. So I actually went to one of those hot yogas, I can't remember, Bikram yoga or whatever, the hot one anyway. Yeah, so I went and did that. And number 4, he said to me, discipline. He said, Ainsley, he goes, what time do you go to bed? I said, whenever I want.
I'm an adult. I go to bed when I want. Yeah.
And he said, you need to start having discipline. He said, even the birds, they go to bed at the same time, they wake up at the same time. He goes, you need to start having some discipline and start, having some discipline in terms of all the different things that you do. So I started then, making sure that I went to bed at the same time and started doing that. So that was a game changer as well. And obviously that has a knock-on effect with some of the other things later on, because obviously, and also with number 5, which is sleep. He says you need to make sure you have 7 to 8 hours sleep every single night. He said that's very, very important. And he goes, you need to ensure that you're doing that. You go to bed early enough so you're able to sleep and rest the body.
I like the sound of this doctor. He sounds great, doesn't he? From Pete and Paul.
To be honest, the jury was out until he said, and then when he said number 6, I knew that he was a doctor for me. He said Ainsley, sex. He said sex.
Did you say not now, doctor?
Yeah, he said sex. He goes, that's very, very important. It's very healthy. So I was like, doctor, you've got it going on. Everyone needs a doctor like you. Number 7 was quite interesting actually. He said, do what you love doing. And he wrote this down, but he obviously explained everything, in his own way when he said, Ainsley, he goes, if, for example, you like painting, he said, when you're painting or when you're doing something that you really, really enjoy doing, you don't feel the time. And it's almost like you're in a timeless kind of and it doesn't stress the body, because you can be painting for 4 hours, but it feels like 4 minutes, or when you're doing something that you truly enjoy doing. So he said, start doing things that you really like doing. He said it's very, very important for your body, for your health, and it's really, really important to really focus on that as well. Number 8, he said, was friend. He said, have a best friend and tell your best friend everything. He said, and if you can't tell your best friend everything, then that's not your best friend. You need to go and find another one. Is what he said. So it's important. What he means is to talk, to get things off your chest and whatever, and that kind of thing. So he said that was important. And number 9, he said, happy, relaxed, and positive. He said it's very important that you're happy. And he gave me a little example. He goes, when you walked in my office, look at you, you're 6'3". He said, I've always wanted to be that tall. He said, but I was born short. And he said, be happy for what you've got. And he said, he just went into it in such a nice way. He said, you're in a very fortunate position. And I was like, you only met me 10 minutes ago. How do you know? And it's not just about monetary. It's about everything. If you can run, you can walk, you can move. You are in a fortunate position. You need to sometimes we take a lot of things for granted, I think, and don't really appreciate a lot of things that we have and things that do go right. So that's kind of like what he was on. And he said, Ainsley, if you do all of these on a regular basis, he said, you will be healthy. He goes, because sickness and illness and disease cannot live in a healthy body, and it's important that you kind of look after your health, physical and mental health, as best as possible.
Wow, that's just incredible, really. I mean, the fact that, I mean, we've got to try and get connected with this Dr. Ainsley, I think. We'll see if we can get him on, because that's,
That'd be
you know,
brilliant.
I don't know if it's different in, I mean, what's the medical system, the medical setup in Dubai? I mean, is it probably like private and you pay for people to go? There's not like a national health
It
service
is,
as
but
such.
one of the things he did say to me, so it is like that. That it's private, but one of the things he did say to me, which obviously I don't want to get him into trouble because I love the doctor. I think it's great. He one of the things, and I'm sure many of the people that are listening now, this will be maybe a little bit controversial to some of them, and not everything is suitable for everybody. But what he said to me is in regards to like drugs and things like that, he goes, all drugs have a side effect. He goes, I'd rather not give you drugs. I'd rather work in other different kind of ways in order to get you. Now I understand that there's a myriad of different different situations and different things that obviously where that wouldn't be applicable. But what he said made sense for me, and I understood what he was saying and the way and the tone in which he was saying it. And I think that's important. You can't literally take any of this and say, oh, if you do yoga, you're going to be fine. It's that you need to understand exactly how it was intended and how it was sent across and how it was received.
Yeah, no, I think it's great though, because these kind of and the other thing that the guys, the doctors on the other podcasts I listened to said that I think I might have mentioned earlier, but so 80% of the people they see are there for with chronic conditions that are caused by modern lifestyles. So they're not necessarily, it's not blaming people saying it's self-inflicted, it's your fault, but nowadays society and the way we live is so far removed from the human beings we were maybe evolved to become, that 80% of the people that sit in front of the doctor are there for either things that are caused by their lifestyle or exacerbated by their lifestyle. So actually to try and then deal with a chronic lifestyle condition with a kind of acute intervention like tablets and medications and things, when there is another way. But I understand that from the NHS perspective and things, they're dealing with a huge number of people with a very finite resource. But it's just, if you just had the time to actually sit down, I mean, how long did that consultation take where the doctor met you and went through these 9 points? And kind of how long was that appointment you had with him?
It was about between 20 and 30 minutes. I felt bad because I was worrying that he'd be having other people backing up outside because he really was taking me through it. He's explaining each point, and I felt that he really cared. To be honest with you, I mean, I know it's probably a conveyor belt. He's got to get through stuff, but I genuinely felt that he really cared, and he really wanted the best for me. And to be honest, I liked it so much that I posted it on Facebook, which I don't post everything, but two, I got the list and I put it on my mirror now just to keep an eye on it every day to make sure that I kind of it's really, really important that you kind of do all these different things and be disciplined and all of that kind of and portion control with the food as well, which obviously one of the
so 20 minutes though, a 20-minute consultation that has basically changed your life, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's stopped you, avoided having to take, medications and all the rest of it. So
100%.
I work with
Paul.
I work with a lower limb specialist. I've got a client who's a lower limb surgeon, and I've also got a friend who works in prosthetics. And if you ask them where most of their cases come, so one obviously builds all the prosthetics for someone who's lost a limb, and the other amputates feet, legs, etc., and obviously does other surgeries. But the majority of the amputations come from diabetes, because people get the diagnosis, but they don't do anything. They don't make a change. They don't act on that. And some of it could be system. The system doesn't give people enough time, but also people are not making decisions. You acted upon this information. You obviously trusted the person that was sat in front of you. They took the time to listen to your needs and then put something really coherent in front of you. But then you actually made a decision to do something about it. Is that just indicative of what you've done throughout your life, or is that just driven by your daughter and the fact that you wanted to be their father, you wanted to have a long life with her?
Well, I've always been target driven.
Yeah.
Anyway, with everything, to be honest, even outside of kind of health, even with business and stuff. So kind of this was like a red rag to a bull, wasn't it? When he told me, in terms of like, you've got this, and one of the other things actually that was quite interesting that Dr. Vippy mentioned as well. I said, it's kind of like hereditary. It runs in my family. Everyone's destined to get diabetes in my family. Kind of. He said, "Oh no, Ainsley, that is not the case. That is not the case. Yeah, it's completely down to you. It's not predetermined that because your mum's got this, your dad's got this, you're definitely going to be the one that's going to get diabetes." He said your lifestyle makes a big difference. So I tell you what I would say, James. To anybody else, because one of the whole main reasons why I wanted to come on is because I would have liked to have watched this myself beforehand, before I knew everything, because I really didn't know anybody. I knew lots of people that had diabetes. I'd never heard of anybody that actually turned it around. I didn't really know it was possible. In fact, and to finish that story, they did the blood test. The next day, Dr. Vispin called me. He said, "Ainsley, how are you?" I said, I don't know. It depends what you're going to tell me. He goes, well, the good news is, you don't have diabetes. I said, what do I have? He said, like, no, you're fine. You're all good. And I said, but do I have pre-diabetes? Like, can it jump? How does it jump? And then he spent some time and took me through everything. He said, Ainsley, I said, well, can it come back? He goes, yeah, of course it can come back, depending on your lifestyle, but you definitely categorically your numbers. You don't even have pre-diabetes. You're not even the pre-diabetic levels. You are in the normal levels now in terms of with your blood, and keep carrying on. Drink plenty of water and follow out the steps that I've told you, and hopefully because I hope I shouldn't be seeing you again. So
oh, that's incredible. So yeah, I was going to say that the upshot of it all and sort of life now is that you were type 2 diabetic. You're not now. You're now, like we said, about 5 stone lighter than you were when you were diagnosed. You've lost about 30 kilos, isn't it? I think. And life is very, very different for you now.
Yeah, over the course of just to put it in perspective, that's over like a course of like a year and like 3 months, right? So, but with diet being that things are very different now, and so now. But one of the things that I do want to kind of mention is I think it's important that you can still enjoy life and still understand that all these things are within moderation. So I still have fish and chips, but the fish is salmon. It's done in the air fryer, and the potatoes are boiled in the microwave and then also put in the air fryer. So there's no oil, and I have very little oil now. Broccoli, which I didn't used to like at the beginning, actually, to be honest with you. But yeah, so it's just you kind of like you just work your way through it, but you still need to enjoy things. I'd still drink, but instead of having whatever I have, I'll always be like a vodka and soda now. To kind of keep an eye on the calories and that kind of thing, and just being sensible, really, and moderation is really kind of one of the biggest keys as well.
If you said to someone at the beginning of their health journey that in 1 year and 3 months that they could either reverse their health condition, or they could have the body that they want, or whatever, then most people would jump at that chance. But people don't really ever think that long term, do they? They think, why is it not happening? It's 2 weeks. It's this. It's 6 weeks. Why am I not? Why do I not have the body that I want? Why am I not, 2 stone light or whatever? But here you are, 1 year, 3 months later, in a radically different level of health. That shows you what you can achieve when you put your mind to something over it's a relatively short period of time. But for most people, it seems like a long time, doesn't it?
But what I would say on that, Paul, though, is for anybody watching who on the sofa, eating the bits and pieces, watching Netflix and stuff, I'd say don't focus on 1 year and 3 months. I'll definitely break it into bite-sized chunks. I'd like focus on this week. What can you do this week in order to make things different? What can you do this week in order to kind of pull yourself forward? And if you're able to do that, and no matter what weight you are on the scales, at the end of that week, you're able then to be a little bit lighter, I would say that's good. That's great. You're well on your way. That's what it's all about. Just keep continuing to do that. My sister, she saw my before and after photos, and she was like, "Bro, I know you, so I know it's real. We can actually do this." I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "All right, I'll start." So I was like, "Right, just only focus on this week. Let's just see, get through the weekend as well. Have one cheat meal, which is obviously really important, and then just kind of like just go step by step. And I think by doing it in bite-sized steps, it makes it a lot more achievable for everybody. No one's interested in a year and 3 months. Even I wouldn't. If you'd have told me it's a year and 3 months, I'd have said, "Forget that. I don't want anything to do with it." You know.
But most people say, "I need to shock my body into change." I mean, I get that so often. It's like, I need something big. I need something really extreme. I need to get, I need to do something really radically different. But you didn't do it. You just made incremental small changes that you solidified over time, set yourself a small goal, hit that, moved on, hit that, and just kept going and building that base of health, really.
Yeah.
So it's manageable,
You see, I find that funny, actually, when people say I need to shock my body. So therefore I need to do a ridiculous amount of exercise and weightlifting and this and that and a massive diet and all that. That's so far shocking your body. It's unbelievable. So you don't need to shock your body. But for somebody like where Ainsley was, all he did was start walking and eating a bit better, and his body's going to react to it. It's not shocking his body, but that is doing something radically different to what you were doing. It amazes me that you went back to see the doctor and you reversed your diabetes just by going for a walk. I think that's amazing.
And diet.
And diet, but everybody can do that. That's accessible to everybody, isn't it? And so what Paul says about when people saying they come and I want to shock my body, it's like, you don't have to shock it, but you have to do something radically different. And you did. And radically means just like you say, just walking and diet is it doesn't sound radical, but it is, isn't it? To somebody who you used to be. So I think that's amazing.
And also, sorry, Pete, go on.
No, I was going to say also, when you went to the doctor and he said these things, I mean, obviously you'd been doing this for a year and a bit or whatever, but when he said these 9 things, a couple of them might have been, but were any of them an actual real surprise, or were you just like, yeah, I need to do that. Yeah, I need to do that.
No, I know this sounds really silly, especially as we've all got the internet, so we can all kind of find this stuff ourselves anyway, right? But having someone sat in front of you who's a doctor and who says, "Listen, this is what you need to do in order to sort this particular specific problem out." Well, it was direct for me. I know I could have Googled it myself anyway, but him saying, "We've got this problem. This is the solution. Let's go at it." And that kind of it was very channeled. It was very direct and kind of it made a big impact, I think. So but none of them were, I mean, they're all pretty straightforward, right? None of them are really crazy difficult. The yoga one, I'm not doing as much of that as I should be, but what I am doing, actually, interestingly enough, because obviously I'd lost quite a bit of weight, and I hadn't been to the gym at all in all of that time, not at all. I got a PT actually near the end. Actually, when I was doing my walk, a guy walked up to me and says, "Have you ever thought about getting a PT?" I was like, "Not really." And then we started training together, actually. I'm
buggered if I'd want to walk up to a 6'3" guy who looks like you, right? Go, "Excuse me, have you ever thought of getting a PT?" And be like,
Do you know what was funny? I had my headphones.
It's like walking up to a bald bloke and asking him if he wants a wig. I mean,
You know what? I had my headphones in as well, and the fact that the guy actually had the balls to come up to me while I had my headphones in and while I was running, I thought, anyone's got that much balls, I've got to work with him. He's going to take me somewhere. So that's actually why I took him on, actually. But yes, I took him on for a month. But what I've started doing now, I've actually now joined classes that I go to every morning for an hour, and it's kind of like, it's very similar to it's like a we train as one type thing. It's probably quite popular in the UK, and we do like a CrossFit type session for an hour, and it's different every morning. And that because it's as a team and doing it together, that I've now found is like really good. I always knew I wanted to go to the gym, but I didn't want to go until I brought the weight down. I wanted to because I wanted to see the results I was able to do, but there was too much fat there before in order to be able to do that. So now I do that every morning.
So do you do your walks? I mean, I know Dubai obviously gets incredibly hot in the day. So you used to go out, you said sort of early morning, I suppose, when it's a bit cooler, and do your walks in the morning to start off.
I did. Yeah. And then in the summer when it was really hot, then I exchanged the walking, 2 hours walking for 1 hour swimming. So I just do laps. I've got quite a big pool, so I was just doing laps of the pool. for every day, 5 days a week.
Yeah. And now you do your kind of CrossFit style workouts. Are they indoors? Are they outdoors?
They're indoors. Sometimes they have us run around half the track a little bit, but I'm very familiar with that track, so it's no surprise to me. So
yeah. What's really interesting as well is that we had Chris Zaremba on last week, who talked about for about 50. He had like a bit of a health epiphany, a health problem at the age of 50. He was about 18 stone, and he got told lots of things needed to change. And he does sort of 40 minutes cardio every morning, sort of 5 mornings a week. And it's just the same. He would just go on a cross trainer or do something. And he said that, that for him, he didn't need the variety of lots of different change and lots of stimulation and entertainment. He just knew he had to do it, and he did it. And very similar to you went to that track and you just walked around that track listening to a podcast like every morning for like a year or whatever it was, So I think so many people we had this conversation before where they use the excuse of boredom, or, oh, it's boring, or I'm going to get bored doing that. I need something more entertaining. And I think what's great is that you, like you say, you get the entertainment from listening to different podcasts, but the fact is you're just walking and you're doing what you needed to do to get the result that you got, which was fantastic. There's so much great stuff there, Ainsley. That is brilliant. Just hearing your story, I think. And like I said at the start, I'm sure. I've got lots out of this conversation, and I'm not pre-diabetic or diabetic, but I know a lot. Hopefully, everyone listening will know someone, and I'm sure they will, who they can send this episode to have a listen to. I've got a number of members at the gym that need to listen to this. Because there was something else I listened to the other day about community and about the kind of Alcoholics Anonymous model of change, changing a chronic problem using community. And they talked about the way they use sponsors and kind of mentors, that someone who has had the problem themselves and got over it, and you can see this is a real person who is where you were and they've got over it, how inspiring that can be. And for people to see, yourself, a normal guy who got this kind of diagnosis, in his 40s and did what you did, people can see that it is possible. So I think it's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you so much. We'll start to wrap up. Pete, do you have any final points or anything you'd like to say?
Well, what you just said there, I'm reading. I was speaking to Kirsten Tulloch on Instagram, friend of the show. She was on one of the episodes way back, and she recommended to me Russell Brand's book on that, the 12 steps, because he's basically the 12 steps, but he talks about it quite a little bit differently. And what you just said there is, I think it's like step 9 step 8, where you go through. I can't remember exactly what it was, but you go through people who you've done bad things to and all that sort of stuff, and then you want to make amends. But then you have to then tell your sponsor that, so that's your friend, someone who you can tell everything, because they'll then say you're making excuses here or whatever. They'll know that whether you're doing not the right thing or the wrong thing, but they'll know whether you're holding back or not. So that's really interesting with a friend, because you can be like, oh, I'm doing all this stuff. And they'll be like, you could do like the doctor. You could do what? Are you 80? Go running, do more. So it's harsh, but you're going to listen to that, right? Because you trust this person. So I think it's brilliant. Yeah. And then for anyone, what Ainsley said, this is brilliant. He doesn't even know he said this. I think it's great. Oh, well, I was doing running, but when it got too hot, or if you haven't got too much time, just go for a swim in your pool. Yeah, just in your back garden in Chelmsford. You swim. Fair enough. He said he's got quite a big one. If you haven't got that big a swimming pool, you'll just have to do more laps, obviously. But that's the way it goes.
I'm actually from Chelmsford. So just walk around the Army and Navy or something. Walk to the shopping centre.
Paul, do you have anything you'd like to say in conclusion?
I'm going to use someone else's words. I actually posted this on my business Facebook page because I saw it, and it's a quote from what's his name, Buffett, the
Warren
entrepreneur,
Buffett.
Warren
Warren
Buffett,
Buffett,
Yeah.
and I saw someone post this on Instagram. It says, and I think it's really applicable actually. If you are lost, the answer is education. If you are educated, the answer is action. If you are acting, the answer is consistency. Which I thought exactly sums up what you've done, Ainsley. You know, you've sought education, and then you've acted upon that education, and you've been consistent. And you know, here you are in a much better position off the back of that. So that's
but
all
it's
I'll
not
say.
over yet. It's not over yet.
It's not over yet. No, but
mission still continues. The six-pack hunting continues.
Yeah, I've got some great pictures actually you've sent me already, Ainsley. So we'll kind of, when we put the podcast out, and I love that the video you sent me as well of you training. That's really cool. So
is there a montage video?
Yeah, it is. Like it's a proper montage training video. It's really well.
What's the soundtrack? That's what I want to know. Is it a Rocky soundtrack, or is it?
The PT put it together. I don't
think it's got a soundtrack, but it looks really good. It's really, really well done. So what's next, Ainsley? You said you're a target driven, guy. You always have been. You're obviously still training, and what's the focus now moving forwards?
No, we definitely are hunting for the six-pack. It's not over until we've. It's not over until we're there. So I'm only in the middle of the journey as far as I'm concerned. There's still quite a bit more that we need to do. But then after that, it then needs to be consistent and just maintain and just keep it there. Really, it's not really going to stop. I'm not going to go back to where I was before. After such a long period of time as well, it kind of becomes a habit forming, right? So it's no longer effort. I actually look forward to go training tomorrow in the morning, when before that wasn't the case, So that's also huge as well. Change.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Ainsley. And Ainsley had said near the start as well, I think before we recorded, if you do want to kind of ask Ainsley any questions about what he's talked about today, he is on Instagram as @BigFellaDubai. Yeah, so it's @BigFellaDubai @BigFellaDubai on Instagram. To be honest, that was more than I expected today, Ainsley, having that conversation. That's really been fantastic. And like I say, getting that shared out, far and wide, because I think hearing it from someone who's actually, it's okay, us trying to say things to people, but hearing it from someone who's had that diagnosis, taken the action, like Paul said, been consistent, and you're where you are and you're still moving forwards is absolutely fantastic. So thanks so much for joining us, Ainsley.
No problem. Pleasure. Thank you for having me on, guys. Excellent show. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Paul. Cheers, James.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So everybody, please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening on a platform that allows you to do so. And especially, I think with this episode, make sure you send it to, friends, family, colleagues, loved ones, people who this might help, because I think it's really important information and just for people to know that they can take action, they can make a decision, and they can make a difference to their own health. We are back next week for episode 98 with the return of Fabio Zonin from Italy. Will be back with us again next week for episode 98. Until next time, take care. See you later.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.